Hello.
You're in as Candace.
Oh, really? I just clicked on the Bitly link. Am I not supposed to do that?
It's fine. You just aren't you. And I
Hmm,
couldn't get the
Let me,
Billy link to work.
I guess I'll try again.
Okay.
Hello, peeps.
Hello.
Hi, I'm here. Am I Anna?
You are. You are now.
Okay.
And you,
I joined with my other Zoom account. I just didn't realize I was signed into the other one. So
huh.
I don't know why that made me Candace, but here I am.
Yay, Candace. I woke up very, very sick this morning, you guys. So
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm going to stay in the background and do those polls.
That stinks. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm terrified I got something at the emergency room because
Sure.
there were a
I can see
lot
that.
of people coughing and barfing just in the waiting room.
It's the
No
Yeah.
worst.
one was wearing masks. My mom is sick too. So we're like, great, this is awesome.
If you want to get sick, go to the hospital.
Yep, apparently. I have COVID tests somewhere, but I think they're in the basement.
Yeah. Kevin has a pretty bad cold right now, and I've heard about kids around here having pneumonia, and he never gets sick, like ever.
They were talking about that in the news this morning, that
Were
all these
they?
people are getting walking pneumonia, especially the littles.
Yeah, so I mean, Kevin's obviously not little anymore, but
Right.
he just doesn't get sick. And he's missed a couple of days last week, so they sent him home just to get cough medicine and go back because they agreed that he shouldn't miss any more school, but he was coughing so badly. And I was like, okay, I think we're definitely breaking some rules here. But he came over and I jacked him up with medicine, sent him back.
Oh.
Ugh.
Yeah, I don't get this kind of sick very often. Like I get migraines and IBS, but colds, nope. Don't ever get colds.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hmm. Well, we'll get through this and you can go to sleep.
Yeah, go back to bed.
Do you want me to do the polls, Jacqueline?
What do you mean?
Like, do you want to get off the webinar and rest and I'll do the polls?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. You're not going to be participating in any other way, Anna?
Nope, I don't think so.
Yeah, that would
Monitoring
be
the chat, but
awesome.
you could do both of those at the same time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sad because I wanted to experience this webinar, but yeah, that's probably the best thing for me to do.
Well, it's being recorded, so you can watch it later
That's
today if you want
right.
to.
That's right. Yes, Anna, if you can do that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, totally. No
Okay,
problem.
awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you
Okay.
later. Feel better.
Hope you
Yeah,
feel better.
I'm going
Yeah.
to bed, but I have my phone, so if you need anything, just
Okay.
text me.
No problem. You
Okay.
rest, get better. That's what we need from you.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Thanks, guys.
All
Have
right.
fun.
Take care.
Okay. Let me just confirm the polls because there are three in there right now, but I thought we were only doing two. I think right? So
Yeah, I
the
thought so
two that
too.
we're doing, the one is which of these would be most valuable for your organization? They pick between the four.
Hang on. Let me
Yeah.
get there with you. I could go ahead and pop these up actually.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yep, the first one is here.
Okay. Because there's still a welcome one in here, which is like, how long have you been offering coaching? But we're not doing that one, right?
We are not.
Okay, perfect. That's what I thought. And then a number 5 is which 2 attributes are most important to you and your coaching provider? And we do that one on the checklist.
Yep.
Great. Great.
Yep. Okay.
I will also manage the chat. So I'll just speak up if
Yeah.
somebody's, needs something from you, and I'll manage the chat in terms of saying like, welcome, please put this in the chat, blah, 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 blah. Anything else you want me to be doing on the chat side?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we'll be great.
Yeah.
And this is going to automatically record.
I think it already is recording. And then what I see up top is a button that says you are in a practice session, start webinar. So maybe at like 11:50, we should move over and start it
Yeah,
and
I have
hang
that
out.
too. I have that too.
Okay.
Okay.
I think
Anything
we will
else?
be able to see everybody. I think the reason we couldn't see anybody on Monday is there wasn't anyone who was a participant.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's so much better when you can see everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
How are you feeling today about all this?
A little better.
Yeah. Well, you look
It's,
great in your green. Very on
oh,
brand.
thank you. I'm going out tonight to an event. And so I was like, well, I have to dress up anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I won't be unhappy to have this be done though. I don't know why it's like so not a big deal. We do this a million times all the time. I don't know what it is about this that I get a little bit more worked up, but I do.
Webinars in general or this webinar?
Our first one and this one. I was so
Okay.
nervous on the first one.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, and I'm a little more nervous about this.
okay.
So I attended a webinar yesterday on like sale. Have you seen those people advertising the sales coaching? I attended that yesterday kind of as due diligence just to see what they were doing. And I'm like, this is so not a big deal. Why do I get worked up about our webinars?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think on my side, I'm always like hoping that I provide enough value to people and I'm saying something interesting enough because they're giving me their time. That's like what gets me worked up.
Yeah. Yeah. Like feels like the bar is higher somehow, even though it's free. It's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So
Okay. Are your slides in the mode that you're going to present them in?
nope.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure you want to do like present slideshow or whatever you're going to do, and I'll make sure that they look good.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Perfection.
Yeah. I love that Candace put her picture in there.
Yeah. Very, very cute. On my screen, the little bottom is cut off of it, of the slides, but I have to imagine that that's just because of however big my screen goes.
Oh, hang on.
I don't know if you have like a zoom in, zoom out on your side or something.
I do not. It just
Okay.
takes up the whole screen.
Yeah, whatever. When my zoom bar goes down on the bottom, I can see the whole thing. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
I can try to change the view also. I bet that would fix it side by side. Yep, there we go.
I think we're there.
Yeah, I think this is going to be great.
You said CEO transition was Luke Wire. We moved sponsor alignment. Yeah, that was the change you made yesterday to put sponsor alignment at the bottom. And then I talk about sponsor alignment. Okay,
Yeah, does
perfect.
that look okay to you?
Yep. I think I must have printed the deck like 6 or 7 times this go around. I don't, every time I turned around, I was like, I feel like I need the most recent version. Time is it?
43.
Okay. I looked at the email you sent over from Randy's references and I don't want to use Paul Thompson. I can't imagine Eva calling Paul and that being any kind of a connection.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
So maybe we do, I could probably ask Brooks Luquire to be a reference. And just be clear with them that that was me and not Randy, but it's still a Sparks Group representative engagement. And then we get the, I think we need the contact information for the second one that he provided. Cause I think,
Okay.
I mean, I think they're going to call is what my sense.
Okay.
So if you could ask, if you could tell him that we probably will pass on Paul, but we'll gen up another one. And if he could get us contact information for the second one that he provided, that would be great.
Okay.
And maybe what I'll do is go ahead and send those over and maybe they can reference check since we're just twiddling our thumbs waiting for this meeting to happen.
Okay.
So. That means I need to reach out to Brooks. He would be great though. And I guess so as soon as this finishes, we'll need to send it to Candace so she can cut the video, right? Because we'll have to, I don't know if the recording will stop and restart when we exit the practice session or whatever, but regardless, we'll probably need Candace to edit it a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I have this. I wanted to ask too, did we ever get any traction on the Morrison ones, or do we know where those stand, those three?
No, but when I followed up on that one, they said, "Oh, we're meeting with Jessica." So after that, blah blah blah, and that was the
Oh,
meeting
duh. I'm
couple
doing
weeks
that on
ago,
Friday.
right?
I'm doing the CEO on Friday. Yeah, Avi.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I
that's
thought
why
we
you
were
did.
waiting for something else, like a meeting with them.
You
Good.
did. Yep. I don't know why I got him disconnected in my mind. I need to take those slides you did and put them into the deck for him, but that should take all of like 5 minutes. So,
Okay.
and then Carolina emailed me with some additional talking points that she wanted me to make sure to hit with him. So I'll focus on that after we get through this today. But that shouldn't be a big deal.
Okay. And then something came in from Carolina and the person who's taking over for her, Kate, about proposal for somebody from HTS. Do
Yep.
you want me to draft that proposal? I imagine there's notes that say roughly what it is and all that.
Yeah, we don't have the client's name yet,
Okay.
but there should be notes in HubSpot about the background. And I can certainly fill you. Basically, Jim is approaching retirement and his heir apparent needs a little bit of cleanup around the edges.
Okay.
Apparently he does fine managing up, but he does not have great peer relationships. And I think his direct reports like him. I think it's really like peers, the notes will say, but it should be a standard kind of preparation for promotion kind of an engagement.
Okay.
And then the three, I would put in the AIM and the LCP, and they need to be optional. They were debating. The question is whether or not he's going to take ownership of the development opportunity. So we were kind of discussing the use of the 360 to do that or not do that.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that they're committed to the assessments yet, but
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's pretty straightforward. It's a little bit Glenn Robinson, but or maybe Payman
Okay.
/ Glenn Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes
But let me
sense.
know if you have any questions.
Okay. I'll take a
And
look.
we can ask Kate for the person's name so we can put it in that.
Yeah, you want me to do that? I think that'd be good.
Yeah, go on, she write her back, introduce yourself and ask his name. I'm gonna go fill my coffee up.
Okay.
Jamie Morrison. She pitched a fit again last week.
Right. I remember you saying something about that.
So I took the stuff out, I sent it back to her, and I was like, sign the agreement, get it back to me, and like, we're done. And do it by tomorrow, do it by Friday, November 1st. And I hadn't heard anything, which was par for the course. But then the strangest email came over today and it said, may your Halloween be filled with treats, Jamie. I was like, what? You trying to make nice with me now?
Did she send it to the wrong Jessica?
Maybe. Maybe she's actually going to trick me on Halloween, or maybe she'll actually send me a signed agreement. I don't know.
It's so weird.
Isn't that weird?
Yes.
She's something else. I wonder who is in her ear about all this stuff because it's obvious that somebody is in her ear.
I have no idea. Did you hear that Mandeep got his first client with us?
I did not.
Yeah, so that's good news. He's going to do
That-
one of the Michigan folks, the Michigan OCI folks on Jim and
That's
Holly's team.
that's awesome.
I know, it's very exciting. Also, Venu chose a coach. He chose Christian, And the funny thing about that is after he spoke to you and Lisa, you know, emailed him about his LCP and stuff like that, he like emailed Lisa back and said, I've changed my mind about coach preferences. I only want a woman. But I had already confirmed me, I think it was Gina for him, I can't remember, and Christian. So I said, okay, send these coaches back to him, Lisa, and just tell him, hey, listen, we really think you could be a good fit with this guy. If you really want a woman, just let us know and we will swap it out. So anyway, he ended up picking the guy.
That's funny. Okay, we're at 8 till. Shall we go in?
Sure, whatever you want.
Okay, here we go. Okay, they're going to be able to join. Okay, we've started. They're going to be able to join. I'm assuming that the recording is just going to continue. So it'll be really important to make sure it gets edited so all of our discussion that we've just had doesn't end up in a recording.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, it looks like it's still recording. Does it look like it's still recording on your site? Yeah, I see the little recording button.
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Okay. Oops, back. Nope.
There, that looks nice.
Okay. Ben's homecoming pictures look so cute.
I know.
He totally has your energy. You can just see it.
Yeah, he is. He is a lot like me and Tyler, that's for sure.
What are the kids going to be for Halloween tomorrow?
Natalie's going to be a vampire, and she was practicing with fake blood in the bathroom yesterday and did not ruin anything. So that was the greatest miracle of the week so far.
Yeah, those are new towels. Tell her to be careful.
Oh my God. And Ben just last night announced he is being a cow. and borrowing a costume from our neighbor because he and all his friends are going to be animals. I was like, oh, are you wearing that to school? He's like, no. I'm like, so you are trick-or-treating? Yes. I didn't, I
Okay.
thought maybe not. So
Yeah, Ben is still trick-or-treating. Hopefully his Colonel Sanders costume arrives today. He's going to be Colonel Sanders and his friend, he's going to his friend Andres's house, and Andres is going to be a chicken.
I love that.
But we were a little bit last minute because we thought he had to work.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
A costume was supposed to arrive yesterday, and it got delayed. It's supposed to arrive today, so fingers crossed it actually does arrive today. Otherwise, we're going to be in like emergency
Running around
costume.
for a white suit.
Yeah, I don't know what we'll pull. Could put powder in his hair to get his hair white. We can probably figure out a mustache of some sort, but beyond that, I don't know what we would do. We'll figure
Maybe,
it out.
maybe he can pivot and be something else that's a little easier to do on the fly. Like I really want somebody to be chicken and waffles. So somebody, he could be a waffle. It's like
Yeah,
cardboard, draw the little thing.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
a sandwich board thing.
yeah. That might work. We'll see. We'll see. We had to do Marcus Aurelius earlier for like a no, who did we
Uh-huh.
have to do? They were putting in his AP World History class, they put Genghis Khan on trial. So he was one of the he wasn't Genghis Khan, but he was one of the characters. So we had a beach towel out and he was putting like red rings on it or something. I can't remember how he did that one, but there was a lot of drama around that project too. So
Can only imagine.
yeah. I hope people are, I hope the link is working. Nobody said the link's not working yet, but it's kind of weird. We're like 2 minutes too and nobody's in yet. I feel like.
Yeah, I was just checking to see if anybody had emailed about the link, but nope.
Nope.
I mean, I feel like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday can be busy meeting days, so maybe people are running from one thing to the next.
Yeah. Oh, this actually, we have 3 attendees that are in.
Yay.
They can probably see us, hear us. Hi, everybody. Christy, Melanie, Paula, Susan are here. We can't see you guys, but we can see you on the list. There we go. All right. Welcome, welcome. We should stop chatting about Halloween costumes.
If anybody wants to put their Halloween costume in the chat or their child's Halloween
Yeah.
costume, feel free.
We'll get going here in a couple of minutes. We'll let people arrive. Welcome, Olga. We see you coming in. Elizabeth is here. Hi, Elizabeth. I do love seeing friendly faces here. It's a lot of fun. There we go. Welcome, everybody. As you're starting to come in, we see you joining. Diana coming in. Hi, Tim. Thanks for being here. We'll give it another minute or two, and then we'll get rolling. And as you can see, we've got up on the screen just an invitation to introduce yourself in the chat, your name, your title, your location, where are you, and then a book, a movie, or a podcast recommendation if you've got a good one. Because if anybody's able to actually watch television with all the political ads right now, God bless you. Oksana, hi. Nice to see you. Yes, Next Level by Scott Eblin is a great recommendation. Hi, Tracy. Glad you could make it. Hi, Jim. All right, we'll give it one more minute and then we'll get rolling here. Nice to see everybody. We're also going to be, it's already being recorded. You were probably notified of that when you came in. And so this will also be available for you after the fact. Paula says only watching networks with no commercials, Hulu. Yes. Awesome. Great. Okay. All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started as people continue to roll in. That'll be great, but want to make the most of the time that we have with you. I'm going to go ahead and close out the chat for me and the participant list so that I can focus on the slides. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to have you here. My name is Jessica Bronsert. I am the founder and CEO of the Sparks Group. And again, as you're coming in, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. And what we're going to be focused on today, and for you spending an hour of your day with us, is this session is really about enterprise coaching and how to think about it more strategically. So the title of our webinar here is From Fragmented to Focused: 4 ways that your organization can make the most of your investment in coaching. So we'll get into kind of our hypothesis about why this should be a topic of relevance. We'll be interested to hear from you a couple of times throughout the hour, and we'll see where we get to at the end. So by way of introduction up front, I just introduced myself. We also have Anna, who's here. Anna is our Chief Operating Officer. Her last name also happens to be Sparks, which is a total coincidence, but we think it was kind of a synchronicity or fated that she was going to end up with the Sparks Group. So we're really glad to have Anna here. And many of you know Anna because she plays such a big role in the firm. And then we have 3 team members who aren't with us today for various reasons. Lisa Thompson, Jacqueline Mason, Candace Lowney are really important members of our team, so we want to give them a shout out, but they are not here with us today, but they help make the Sparks Group run. Candace in particular gets credit for the lovely slides that you're going to get to see today. So we're really glad to have such an awesome team. The other big important part of our team is our awesome bench of coaches and consultants. These people are fabulous. I'm not going to say all their names or go into a lot about them, but just want to show you one of the things we're really proud about with this bench, and not even everybody is on here, but the diversity, both visibly that you can see, but also invisible diversity in terms of educational background, work experience, industry, different kinds of modalities that they practice in, gender, sexuality. We really believe that clients, especially in the coaching context, should really feel a level of connection with the person that they're working with. And we try really hard to provide that diversity to meet client needs. So we are huge fans of our team, and like to brag on them whenever we can. A little bit about the Sparks Group before we get into our topic today, just to throw up a list of what our offerings are. I know a lot of you are engaged with us in a certain capacity or maybe not at all. We really have quite a diverse offering. We do a lot in the coaching space, obviously, which is our topic today. We also have a pretty heavy specialty in vertical development, which I'm going to touch on really lightly as a way of teeing up our topic today. Group and team coaching or modalities. I think we're going to focus on some education around that maybe in the spring. That's a really interesting thing. Consulting in the human capital space, facilitation and training, speaking engagements. I really say that we can do anything for you across the human capital spectrum except for recruiting, comp, and benefits. But anything else that you might have going on around your people, around your talent strategy, we can be a good partner for you. So that's just a little bit about us. We'll go ahead and get into our content today. And I want to start by teeing up why coaching is even important, why we think it's a modality that you should be considering inside your organization. And to do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the complexity crisis. So this is the name. The complexity crisis is sort of a name that was given by the organization that conducted this research. Their name is Lectica. And they looked at the task demands that are put on leaders at increasing levels of seniority that you can see across the bottom of this chart. And then they measured the ability of leaders at those leadership levels to meet those demands. And that's the brown line that you see kind of squiggling upwards. The arrows that you see pointing up on each of those bars of the leadership levels are indicative of the gap between what is expected of leaders at that level and what they are able to bring to the table. And what you see here is that there is a gap that really starts at the mid-level and gets more or less increasingly larger as we move up the chain to the C-suite of organizations. Unfortunately, this research has been replicated in the nonprofit sector, the for-profit sector, and the government sector. So this is a pervasive leadership problem that's been documented, and Lectica has dubbed it the complexity crisis, that essentially the level of change and the level of complexity that leaders are experiencing in the workplace has got us all, air quotes, in over our heads in terms of being able to deal with what's coming at us. So the headline here is that this creates a leadership development imperative. This is why leadership development is so important. And when we're talking about dealing and managing with complexity, coaching is a really wonderful modality to consider because it is so bespoke to the client, and it really is best suited to help people improve how they think and not just what they know, which is really what, when we talk about complexity, this is really about thinking capacity. This is not just about knowledge. So that's a really quick sort of overview as to why we think coaching is such an important modality, sort of against that backdrop of why leadership development is so important. And so we're kind of starting from that place of coaching is a really great thing to be bringing into your organization, but there can be some challenges with it from an enterprise perspective. How can you make sure that your organization is getting the most out of your investment? Or what are the problems with coaching? Like, what happens when it's not being done well? The first, it's not a challenge, it's just an opportunity, is that coaching by its nature is more of a one-on-one individual intervention, right? So we think about a single leader being coached inside an organization. The first goal is for them to improve their performance or improve their own capacity. There really is not consideration of how the organization is going to benefit or what the organization can get out of it. We're just focused on how this person can get better. That's not bad, but there's so much more value to be had by thinking about it from a bigger perspective and driving some more value out of it. That's really what we're talking about today. So what happens is when you have multiple disconnected coaching engagements happening across an organization, here's what happens. There's little to no alignment to the strategic plan or the people strategy in the organization. And there's no connection between those coaching engagements and with the other leadership development or talent strategy, people strategy initiatives that you may have going on. So we've kind of got these engagements that are happening and they may be driving some value in individual pockets, but there's not connection to strategy. There's not connection to those engagements. We're missing a lot of the value that could be had. And the last implication of that is that then it becomes much harder to measure the value of those engagements, the progress that those clients are making, and to demonstrate that return on investment over time. So while coaching is a great modality, depending on how it's deployed in the organization can mean that you're just getting a little bit of value out of it, or as we're going to propose, potentially a lot more value out of it. Okay. So what we recommend is that you think about coaching in a strategically coherent way. The three main ideas under this idea of strategically coherent coaching are that you're taking the strategic plans, the strategic goals of the organization, and you're translating those down into individual development goals for leaders. So there's a line of sight and connectivity between what the organization's trying to do and what the organization needs and what the leader is working on. Secondly, we want to engage and align all of the stakeholders around the person being coached, not just the person being coached. So in a lot of organizations, what we see is that the leader gets coaching and they kind of are just left to go do their coaching, and no one's checking in and no one's asking questions. No one's making a point to lift up and have conversations with stakeholders and make sure that the value is being captured. So the way that we recommend approaching coaching really does sort of engage and align all of those stakeholders together. And then lastly, standardizing engagements across an organization to include, as one of many things, including measurement and evaluation is the third kind of leg of our stool of what strategically coherent coaching looks like. So let me pause there before I go on. Anna, anything coming up in the chat or questions or anything that are worth addressing at this point?
No, not yet. But feel free to drop your stuff in the chat, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a question or a comment, we'd love to hear from you. Happy to pause and take questions along the way. So we'll keep going here. So if strategically coherent coaching is sort of the idea that we want to put forward to you today, there are 4 components of that at a more tactical level that we think you can consider. These are listed in sort of sequential order as we imagine that you might implement them, but we also think that this works really well as an a la carte menu. So depending on where you are, where your organization is with coaching, it may make a lot of sense to pick off number 2 or number 3 instead of starting with number 1. So I just want you to think about this either as a roadmap or as an a la carte menu in terms of how you might think about implementing this in your organization. So 4 steps here: align coaching with a strategic plan, standardize coaching engagements, leverage the investment and minimize the administrative burden. And then the 4th one here is demonstrate return on investment. So these are 4 big strategies that would all help you gain more out of your investment in coaching inside organizations. So we have our first poll here on this slide. Kudos to me for remembering to call it out. Which one of these strategies do you think would be most valuable for your organization at this point? So go ahead. Anna just popped it up. Thank you, Anna. Go ahead and answer that, and we'll share the responses here in just a minute.
Jessica, while people are responding, just wanted to let you know that Adam says that standardizing engagement sounds problematic given the complexity. So maybe when you talk about number 2, you can dive in there a little bit more. And Susan is hoping to learn more about evaluation and measurement in particular. Okay,
sounds good. We will talk a little bit more about those as we come to them. Yeah, and agree, standardizing coaching engagements can be really challenging, especially if there has sort of been a culture of permission of coaching happening sort of at will in the organization. It really helps for things to be centralized, either with HR or the line of business, like that coaching has a home somewhere in the organization. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, I think everyone's responses are in. I'm going to share the results here. This is super interesting. Can you see the results now? Let me see, share results. There we go. Okay. 45% of you said align coaching with a strategic plan. That's fascinating. 20% said standardizing coaching engagements. Only 5%, 1% out of 20 of you that answered said leverage the investment and minimize administrative burden. And 6 people said, 30% of you said demonstrate ROI. Okay. So the alignment, the strategic alignment piece is biggest, and then almost a tie, really ROI, and then standardization with the admin piece kind of running a distant 4th. That's super fascinating. Okay. Well, we'll keep trucking here as we talk through these things. Let me get rid of that so I can keep moving the slides forward. Okay, so the first benefit or the first strategy is to align coaching with a strategic plan. I want to share, as a way of talking about what this looks like, I actually want to share some case studies from our work here at the Sparks Group. And we picked out 4, what we tried to give you a real diversity of examples here. So 4 different case studies of how coaching or leadership development was used to help drive forward the strategic agenda or strategic plan of the organization. So the first one here is a CEO transition. This was a client of ours here in Charlotte where the CEO was retiring and a leader of the senior leadership team was being elevated to the CEO, as well as the leadership team itself was sort of being reconstituted. Some org design work was being done. They were adopting the EOS operating model inside this organization. And so some people were leaving the leadership team, some people were being added. What we had was more or less a CEO who needed to be onboarded well into his role, and a leadership team that needed to be really gelled together and rally around where the business needed to go. So this was an engagement where we provided 360 feedback to everybody, the new CEO, in addition to the whole leadership team, to kind of set the stage for what individual development they needed to work on, as well as what their collective development as a leadership team would look like. Had them identify and work on a collective and individual development goals. Then we dropped into kind of parallel path, both team coaching monthly, where we got together, talked about the implementation of the EOS model, talked about what was happening in the organization, dropped in a little bit of content as needed to help them. And then individual leaders on the team were also receiving a one-on-one coaching to support their individual development. So this was kind of a multi-pronged approach to support the CEO transition and sort of launching a new era in this business. The second one here was about succession planning. So this was a company that had been a startup and was growing and was anticipating going public. And they were quite worried that once they went public, a number of their senior level leaders would take their new equity cash out and move on to different opportunities. So they came to us and they said, we really want to get our mid-level leaders and our high potential leaders ready to move into these senior level roles that we anticipate some number of them are going to become open. And so we partnered with them to design a one-on-one coaching program. Again, so this, Adam, to speak to sort of standardization, right? This is an opportunity where like a cohort of people are all going to have the same experience. So it's a little bit easier. To create a consistent coaching program for people in the target audience. So a big part of aligning with strategic plan is looking at your company's strategy, looking at your people strategy and saying, who most needs the investment of coaching in the organization, and directing your investment and your resources there. The third one here is a business transformation. So this was a company that was a franchise model organization, and they were completely changing their business to push a lot more products and services into the franchise locations. And that was going to require a much higher degree of integration and collaboration across the corporate functions and between corporate and the franchise locations. So for them, this one didn't include any direct coaching, but what we did for them is we designed a leadership development program that was cross-functional. So it brought together people from different functions, different levels, right? So they kind of were looking at who key people in all of these functions relative to their transformation. And we had a leadership development program that was specifically designed to address the new business model that they were implementing and how the culture was going to evolve, how relationships were going to change, and what were the things that they needed to be thinking about to bring that to life. So very tightly aligned with what the business strategy was evolving to. And then the last one here is a one-on-one coaching engagement that was for a relatively senior leader in a very large organization who was getting feedback that he was not leading in more of a consensus-oriented way. Command and control had been really allowed and accepted and promoted in this organization, but the culture was shifting and he was a bit behind. His engagement results were not great. His business results were starting to suffer as a result of his leadership style. And we were asked to come in and really wrap our arms around him from a coaching perspective with assessments, shadowing, coaching itself, to help this leader change how he was showing up to not only improve the business results he was getting, but to get them in a more collaborative, consensus-oriented, participative way. So that engagement was very bespoke to drive what the business needed from him and to help drive home the culture change. So those are a lot of words about those case studies. Let me just pause for a second. Has anything come up in the chat?
Adam's just saying that he's liking how this is keying in on the key drivers, metrics, factors that can unlock value for the organization.
Yeah, great. We agree. We agree. And that's one of the things that we try and do with the Sparks group and what we think good coaching really looks like is to understand where your business is going and to help you decide where to make those investments that are going to drive what you're trying to accomplish. Standardized coaching is the second lever that we've got here. And Adam, hopefully this speaks a little bit to the question that you had. What do we think about when we think about standardizing coaching engagements? How do we get the most out of standardization? So this is just a handful of the big elements. I think centralizing the administration of coaching is one thing that we don't have on this slide that I would probably add to the list, is that as you start, if you're in an organization where a lot of coaching is happening all over the place, but it's not coordinated, one of the first things is to try and bring all of those together and have them be administered or managed in a central location. Often that's human resources, but it just depends on the organization as to what the best answer is to that. So if we talk through these for a minute, one of them is to have a dedicated team of coaches. These are coaches that should be formally trained in coaching. Ideally, they have some level of certification, either through the International Coaching Federation or elsewhere. And ideally, they are as lovely and as diverse as the Sparks Group bench, so that that bench contains all of the talent that you might need to meet the needs in your organization. Okay. So a dedicated team of coaches who then can get to know your organization, understand your policies and your procedures, know your culture, know what your strategy is, know what your people strategy is. They come in with a lot of context then that really benefits the work that's happening. Coach matching. So this kind of speaks to the diversity and that personal fit often that is so important in coaching, is that allowing clients to have a say in choosing their coach from a curated list of, say, 3 coaches drives a lot of ownership in coaching from the client's perspective. So we really believe that in terms of standardizing engagements, you want to give people a choice, but you want it to be from this curated bench of coaches that are all meeting whatever standards you've set for them. We find that kickoff and goal setting conversations are essential to the standardization process and to making coaching as successful as possible. This is where we bring together human resources, the boss, the coach, the client, together to talk about what are the roles and responsibilities in coaching, what is the scope of the coaching engagement, what assessments are going to be used, and what is each person expected to do to help make sure that this engagement is successful? Because what we don't want to do is send coach and client off into the wild, wild west and never talk to them again, right? That's not the goal. We want it to be really tightly aligned with other stakeholders and what the organization needs. So that really helps. Simultaneously with that, the confidentiality policy is super important. This is maybe one of the biggest risks of not having a more coherent approach to coaching, is that confidentiality has the potential to be handled differently across the board. The International Coaching Federation says that confidentiality should be maintained between the coach and the client. And that is the standard that we try to uphold here at the Sparks Group, unless we have explicit permission not to, or explicit request not to, and then we get permission from the client. But in general, everybody in the organization who's involved in coaching needs to understand what the confidentiality policy is and be comfortable with the downstream implications of that. And so we find that that's one of the biggest benefits of standardizing your engagements. Assessments are also really important. So often we come into organizations and they have a million different assessments that they've used. This group has used that one. This person's used this one. I've heard about this one. I want to try that one. And so introducing standard assessments, usually one in the personality space, one in the 360 space, one in the maturity space, and in certain occasions, maybe a specialty assessment like resilience or something like that. But to have a standard offering offers a lot of benefit in the organization, because people become familiar with the framework. They're able to use it in dialogue with each other. Like DISC is a great example of, talking to somebody else about your DISC style and using that to help improve relationships and communication. And they also can serve as leadership frameworks inside the organization, right? So the value can go beyond the coaching itself into sort of the culture and how we talk about competency and leadership development inside the organization. So standardizing your assessments is also a really excellent thing to do. And then lastly, standardizing sponsor alignment sessions. So these are kind of connected to kickoff and goal setting conversations. Kickoff and goal setting actually can be a version of sponsor alignment. But sponsor alignment, and I'll flip to the next slide because we talk a little bit about this specifically. Sponsor alignment is a dedicated coaching session. It's not even really coaching. It's sort of a meeting that rides along with a coaching engagement where the boss, HR, if appropriate, coach, and client all get together. And this can happen towards the beginning, the middle, the end of a coaching engagement. And what client is doing is they are sharing with their boss, here's what I want to work on, here's what my goals are, here's the progress I think I'm making, here's what I learned from my assessments. Hey, boss, hey, HR, what do you think? What do you have to say about that? With the goal of getting aligned. And so because confidentiality is so important in coaching, yet we want to drive visibility and accountability and standardization for the organization's benefit, sponsor alignment meetings are the mechanism by which we do that. In that the client is communicating with their stakeholders directly with the coach's support. So these are a really important element of standardizing coaching engagements. Okay. I'll pause there for a second. Anything coming up, Anna? Any questions, anybody?
Just a question about what are the assessments that we use, or what are these different categories? So I just dropped in the chat the standard ones that we use and some of the specialty assessments that we use.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'd like to think about them as sort of personality or style assessments. A 360 assessment is another big category. Maturity or vertical development is a category that we're a big fan of here at the Sparks Group. And then we kind of think about specialty as like a fourth category. So yeah, happy to chat more about that offline if that's helpful. So here's just to kind of wrap up our discussion on benefit number 2 around standardization. This is an example of what a structure might look like inside an organization when coaching is being offered to people, a lot of people in the organization. So this sample mirrors an organization that we work with where we are doing exactly that. People at all levels of the organization are eligible for coaching with the Sparks Group. And what we have done is predetermined what the engagement is going to look like, in this case, by the level of leader. So at the emerging or more early career level of leader, the engagements are a little bit shorter, around 3 months long. We believe that when someone is being coached for the first time with a new coach, that coaching roughly every 2 weeks is about the right. Every 2 to 3 weeks is the cadence that we want to stick to. So that's kind of consistent across. Sponsor alignment meetings, though, are adjusted relative to the total amount of time of the coaching engagement. So for shorter engagements, we might only need 1. But as we move up to more senior level leaders, we might have 3 or even more sponsor alignment meetings during the course of that engagement. Assessments are going to tend to be a little bit simpler, maybe more straightforward, a little bit more focused on self-awareness and learning about myself at the earlier stages of my career. And then as we move into mid, a little bit more intense or robust assessments, potentially including maturity assessment. And at the most senior level, we kind of throw everything, we can throw everything in the kitchen sink at you, which might include even a narrative 360, which is where the coach actually interviews stakeholders above, below, and beside the client and summarizes and synthesizes a report. The benefit of that is that it allows the coach to really get to know the stakeholders around the client and to provide very sort of a really voice of the customer in a really nice way. And that could even include, we don't have it on here, but I mentioned it earlier, we can even do shadowing of a client where the coach follows them around for a day or 2 to see how they're showing up. And then we always like to think of our coaching engagements as retainers, not just a book of sessions. And so we want our clients to call, email, or text their coach in between sessions if a need arises to do so for just brief interactions. But we hate for someone to have had a coaching session yesterday and then something big happens today and they're like, oh, but I'm not going to talk to my coach again for 2 weeks. No, we want you to reach out and be like, hey, something big happened. I need to talk to you. So that's just a sample of what sort of the structure can look like to moderate the investment across employees in an organization and provide some standardization. All right. We will keep on going here to benefit number 3, which is leveraging the investment and minimizing the administrative burden. This one, only one person said this was the most important thing for them and their organization right now, so maybe I won't spend a ton of time on it. And we've touched on a couple of these things already, but from the perspective of leveraging your investment and making things as streamlined as possible, there are a lot of benefits to some of these things as well. So having that qualified, vetted team of coaches makes it a lot easier. And it kind of goes along with the second bullet point here, single point of contact. We recommend that as your coaching program matures, that you have one or a small number of coaching providers that you are contracted with. And what you do is they then are responsible for managing the bench of coaches who serve your organization, sourcing those coaches, vetting them, making sure they know about your organization and are ready to coach inside your organization. It takes all of that burden off of you. Essentially, all of the project management comes off your plate. It goes onto the plate of the coaching provider. And so you then know that you've got coaches that are formally trained, that they are certified, they're keeping up their credentials with continuing education, and hopefully they're maintaining a level of diversity to meet the needs of the people in your organization. That single point of contact is a place that person can manage the agreement. You just have one person that you need to work with to manage all of the coaching that's happening in your organization. They're managing the team of coaches, as I just mentioned. This is great. I think this point is really important. They are responsible then for taking all of the input that you have to give to your coaching provider about what are your strategic priorities, what's happening in the organization, where are you trying to go in the future? What is the context that your coaches need to have in order to be effective coaching in your organization? You have to deliver that once to one person, and then the firm is responsible for making sure that the coaches are up to speed. Likewise, as themes and information come out of coaching, we're going to talk a little bit about the feedback and measurement. Heard your question on that, Susan, and we're going to talk about it. You have one point of contact that all of that is going to be organized and synthesized, and it's going to come back to you in a nice, neat package for you to then integrate into your people strategy. Okay. Economy of scale goes without saying. If you know that you're going to be doing a lot of coaching in your organization or a certain number of engagements, and you are willing to guarantee a minimum number of clients to a coaching firm, you then could in return say, if I give you 10 clients or 20 clients or whatever, what kind of a discount can you offer me in exchange for that volume? So you should be able to save some money on your investment if you're able to be a little bit more strategic about how you're deploying it. And then lastly, reducing the burden on the finance department. We probably don't have a lot of finance people on the call today, but they would be really glad if you thought about them and give them just one or two vendors that they have to work with to deliver all of the coaching. So having a master services agreement in place, having engagements predetermined as to what they're going to look like, all of that makes the financial administrative process a lot easier. So let me pause there. Questions, comments? What's coming up in the chat, Anna?
Just a little chitter chatter over here about assessments still.
Okay.
Adam also asked an interesting question, which is, does the Sparks Group advocate for their vetted coaches to be receiving coaching supervision?
Oh, that's a great question. Not formally, no, but I have benefited from supervision. I know Anna has benefited from supervision. We're fans of it, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, coaching supervision, we're required as coaches to obtain mentor coaching hours where coaches are coaching us on our coaching. Supervision is a little bit of a different modality. It's a little bit like when a therapist has supervision. It's sort of in the spirit of that. When they're learning to be a therapist and someone is kind of overseeing them. They're not necessarily listening to your coaching sessions like they do when you're being mentor coached, but you're sort of talking to them about how you're feeling about yourself as a practitioner and really evaluating how you can get better at it. So no, we do not formally require supervision, but we are fans of it at the Sparks Group. So good question. Yeah. And I should say that in general, continuing education is something that we find to be really important in this field. And that is something that you should be thinking about as you're choosing providers. Like, are the coaches getting continuing education and are they being held to a high standard? So,
hey, Jessica, one more question before you go on. Jane asks, how do you navigate confidentiality when you compare insights around the organization?
Yeah, so we can only really do this if there are enough coaching engagements going on to protect confidentiality. But what we do, and feel free to add to this, Anna, is that we pull the coaches together who are coaching inside an organization, and we just say, what themes are you noticing? Like we can look up who your clients are, but we don't really care who your clients are. We just want to know what are the top 1 or 2 themes that you're seeing come out of the work. And then what we do is we compile all of those. Again, no client names are involved, no coach names are involved. We make sure there's enough happening that they're not going to be able to discern what. And we'll go back to the organization and say, here's like the top 3, 4, 5 themes that are coming out of coaching. There's a lot around burnout. There's a lot around the recent org change. There's whatever the thing is. And so therefore, then you may want to consider like doing some educational sessions around the reorg and helping people understand why, because there's some confusion, or you maybe want to consider some work in the resilience space because people are pretty burned out. So we'll kind of keep some separation between the actual coaching engagements and then how we aggregate and provide those themes back. Yeah, great question.
Jessica, I would just add to that something really important, which is we also talk about whether we're going to do that in the onboarding kickoff meetings. So we're very clear in any kind of engagement, what's the scope of the engagement. If we are going to be sharing themes, because that's something that the organization has asked of us, and there's a lot of people participating in coaching, we tell the client, everybody, that this is how we're going to share themes, this is how we're going to aggregate the information. So then they can use that to decide how much they do want to share with their coach, if they are comfortable with that or not so comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Being open about it is really important.
I agree with that. The other thing I say is that it takes, like, for something to actually be a theme, it's got to be going on in a number of places, right? So I always try to remind people, like, it's not even going to be reported if it's not actually a theme. But yeah, the agreement, the transparency is a really important part of enabling that to happen. Yeah. Yep.
Jessica, one more question from Rodney here, which is, do you see any adjustments, changes in this model needed for neurodiversity in an organization?
Oh gosh, Rod, of course you would come in with a really great question. Hi, I'm glad you're here. And that's it. That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. Potentially yes. Potentially yes. I'm parenting a neurodiverse person and have worked with several neurodiverse clients, and they bring their own unique, wonderful aspects to it, and some aspects are more challenging. So yeah, that's a really great question. I want to think about it, but I don't know exactly what I would say to that right off the top. But I think there can be some additional sensitivity. And I think sometimes the challenges that neurodiverse people face in the workplace there are some themes around this that I've anecdotally observed over my time doing the work. Yeah, I think it would depend on the client, the work that we were doing, and kind of what the goal was in terms of the data collection and feedback. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, that's a little bit of a non-specific answer for you.
Jessica, I think the one place it definitely does play out, and we've seen it play out in several of our clients, is that team of coaches or the proposed coaches are specifically trained in something.
Yeah.
If that's an element either for that particular client or more broadly for the organization or for the sponsor or anything like that. So I've seen it go up there.
Yeah. We have absolutely sourced coaches for people with ADHD, for people who are on the spectrum. Yeah, coach sourcing is an obvious place where the model needs to shift a little bit, or we need to. It's another form of diversity, right? It's called neurodiversity. So absolutely, yeah. Okay, so the last benefit here that we want to talk about is demonstrate ROI. I know Susan's been waiting for this one. So measuring growth. There are a couple of ways that we can do this in coaching, qualitative and quantitative. So from a qualitative perspective, what we know is that in each individual coaching engagement, again, when it's being done well and being done in a standardized way, is that clients are setting goals that are ideally aligned to what the organization is working on and needs them to do. And they're vetting those goals with their boss towards the beginning of the engagement. Those goals are informed by their assessment results if they're taking assessments as part of the engagement. And then their boss is saying, yeah, I agree, these are good goals, or I don't. Well, how about adding this one or tweaking, whatever is going to happen there. And so part of what we're doing qualitatively and quantitatively, if we can, is at the end of the engagement and along the way, looking at the level of achievement of those goals. Often that is commentary, often that is qualitative of like the client saying, I feel like I'm better at this. The best outcome that we love is when you can see it in engagement numbers or you can see it in a performance review, something that is a little more quantitative. Often the boss will say, I see a difference, or peers will say, I see a difference, or direct reports will say, I see a difference. So that's probably one of the major ways that we measure growth is by using those goals that get set and saying, where are we with those by the time this coaching engagement ends? Okay. And the research tells us that the ROI on coaching is incredibly high. There is a study from American University that reports something like a 780% return on investment for coaching. So we know that in general, people get a lot of value out of this modality. Now, from a more concrete perspective, which I'm imagining where your question is coming from, Susan, is that we can use a vertical development assessment, and this is done in research studies all the time. You can actually measure somebody's stage of adult psychological development at the beginning of an intervention, and then do that assessment again at the end. That assessment is validated for evaluation purposes. And what they do in research studies a lot, and we can do with a client if they're really interested, is actually track the growth of someone's thinking capacity over time using a vertical development assessment. You also theoretically could use a 360. It's a little bit harder to compare apples to apples with a 360. The vertical development is going to be a little bit more statistically robust in that respect. But so those are that's how we think about measuring growth in an engagement, either qualitatively kind of self-reported from different people, or the client and the people around the client, or through assessment before and after kind of testing. When we talk about the feedback loop, we sort of talked about this a little bit already when we talked about collecting themes, is that when we can measure the growth and when we can collect themes about how well coaching is working and what the progress is that people are making, when we're able to report that back to the organization, it ideally is then feeding back into at least their people strategy, maybe also their organizational strategy of what kinds of development mechanisms should you consider next? What might you do in addition to coaching, or what might you do after coaching? Maybe you need to send somebody to I had a client recently who was new to the HR space, and one of the outcomes of our coaching was that she was going to go to an HR certificate program. So that sort of got solidified during coaching and was a takeaway item for after the engagement was over. So that feedback loop that the organization then benefits from the things that are coming out of coaching, we view as a real opportunity. And what that really means is that your coaching provider gets to know your organization. Like the clients that we've been working with the longest, we really feel like we know their leadership team, we know their culture, we know the market conditions that they're either loving or not loving at the time, over the time that we're working with them. And we then become a much more valuable partner to them. This is the leverage partnership part of being able to make recommendations, be a thought partner, and actually help support some of the other leadership development or human capital talent management kinds of work that you might want to take on in the organization. So we will often start with a single coaching engagement that might grow into a leadership development program, that might grow into a consulting engagement. But essentially that value that gets created from your coaching partner getting to know you then can really be something that gets leveraged over time. So that's a little bit about the ROI. The last thing that we've got to share today, and then we can open it up for more questions and dialogue, is a little checklist here. And we're going to send this to you as a separate little worksheet after the call today. You'll get it with the recording. But that's this little checklist of things to look for in your leadership coaching provider. So we've covered, I think, most of these as we've walked through the content today. Anna's going to throw up our second little poll to say which two of these, I think you can try to check two of them, multiple choice, do you think are most important for you, your organization, as you're looking for a coaching provider? Can you guys, let's see, are you able to take it? Ah, there it goes, starting to populate. Has a lot of interest in the ROI so far, I'm seeing. I'll give you another few seconds. Okay, almost everybody is in there. I know it takes a minute to read all these. There's a lot here. All right, we'll go ahead and end it, and I'll share the results with you. So a designated point of contact got a couple of responses. Onboarding and kickoff calls, 1 person. Diverse bench, 35%. That's nice to see. Trained and accredited coaches, 40% of you are saying that that's important. Coach matching, a little bit. Sponsor alignment, couple of people. Project management or checking in to monitor the project, 25% of you say that. And then 15% themes and sharing. Oh, there's the ROI, 70%. Oh, that's the big one. And then volume discounts got a little bit. Okay, great. That's super helpful. Super interesting. So that's kind of the end of our content today. I can see, oh, we're pulling everybody up. We're really glad that you came today. What we're going to do is send out the recording. You'll get the recording, I think, in the next couple of days, along with a little worksheet, the checklist of what to look for in your coaching provider. I'm happy to take more questions, hear more comments, chat a little bit. I know we've got about 15 minutes until the top of the hour, so we can hang out and chat a little bit. Yes, Susan, we can. I'm scrolling back up to look at comments. Yeah, what are you seeing, Anna?
Everybody should be able to unmute themselves and talk if they would like, or feel free to keep putting stuff in the chat.
Yeah. Question. ROI, does the Sparks Group try to calculate it from a business point of view, hours saved or dollars saved?
We haven't, Jane. Jane, is that you? Am I hearing your voice?
Yep.
Nice. I'm so glad you're here. It's nice to hear from you, see you. I'm going to make this bigger so I can see everybody. We haven't had anyone actually who's been at that place yet. So we are keen to have an opportunity to do that. We have had several clients where we've collected themes and circled back on that. But we're looking for the right client who's at that, ready to take that step to that level of maturity that we can practice with and learn with. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? I lost the chat. Susan, you asked for the American University study. Well, I'll send that over to you for sure.
I've dropped it in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Great.
And it's in the white paper that we'll send afterwards also. So if you need to go back and refer to it.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
I see another question that you've got in here too, Susan. During the orientation session, are there a few goals measurable that the sponsor coach can agree to up front that will be used to help determine if coaching is successful? Yes.
Yeah, you basically answered that, so thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, we generally think of coaching, I think of coaching goals, and when I'm helping other coaches think about this, as goals is sort of internally and externally oriented. Like, what are the concrete external goals that other people would be able to observe? Like, do your engagement scores get better? Does your 360 from your direct reports improve, for example? But then we also, because coaching is such a holistic modality, we also care about people as human beings, not just as leaders. And one of the things we say about coaching generically is we want you to have more joy and ease as a result of participating in coaching. So while it doesn't lend itself nearly as easily to measurement, we do ask clients to think about, like, if this goes well and you're getting what you want out of it, how are you going to feel? How are you going to feel better? How are you going to feel differently? And let's say something about that. And only the client is going to be able to report if they feel better or they feel differently. But we do pay attention to those sort of intangible outcomes of coaching as well as the tangible outcomes of coaching.
Thanks.
Yeah.
If I can add to that for you, Susan, that's also something we try to pull out in that first kickoff meeting with HR, the sponsor, the client, with everybody at the same table, kind of getting a sense from the sponsor about what they're really looking for in the coaching engagement. They get an opportunity to say it out loud in front of the client before even the first sponsor alignment. So that's sort of all put out on the table at the very beginning. And I think that's important.
Thank you.
Rodney, did we answer your question? I see your question in there. How might you see this data at the individual to evaluate the program's ROI to executive leadership? I'm not sure I totally understand what you're asking there.
Good afternoon, Jessica. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. And so, I'm trying to characterize and understand how the individual engagement of a particular coach with a client can be rolled up to an executive level review of an entire program. As you may remember, in our organization, I've got several executives that may participate in an executive leadership program that includes executive coaching. And so we're trying to promote that not just from an individual, but at the organizational value perspective.
Right. Yeah, so you would, the way to do it would be to look at the goals that those executives have set in their coaching, and at the end, ask them to it. And with the boss's help, right? I don't know that we just want client to be weighing in on this, although some things, as we just talked about, only the client can weigh in on. But to say, if I had a goal to do X, Y, and Z, what percentage completion did I get of that goal? And then you could begin to aggregate, okay, client A had, overall percentage completion of their goal, or even exceeded, like I did more than I said I would, or I got more benefit than I thought I would. And you could begin to aggregate at that, you're essentially asking each client and their stakeholders to determine the ROI on an engagement by engagement basis. And then what you could do, Rodney, is roll that up to report. So I would probably think about it in like, here's the investment we made in coaching. These are the dollars saved or the percent goal completion or the money made, that the client is estimating as a result of coaching. And then we've aggregated all of that together to say, this is the impact that we believe we had.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Latoya, it's nice to see you too. Latoya, let's see, with the formalized programs, how do you maintain momentum and motivation for the coachees? Do coachees opt in, or is some mandatory as part of the development plan? Great question. It's both. It's both. We see both of those. A lot of leadership development. Thanks, Susan. Have a great afternoon. A lot of programs, sort of the participants are identified and coaching is part of the program. And so they are sort of voluntold that they're going to have a coach. The vast majority of the time, assuming that there is a coach matching process of some sort, even if they get to read a 3 bios or something, and then choose their coach, it's not always possible to have interviews or coach matching conversations. If you've got a lot of people doing it, you need to be respectful of your coach's time or balance that. But we find that sort of you're going to get a coach as part of this experience is much more successful when the client has an opportunity to choose their coach. And they may need a little bit of education about what coaching is and what's in it for them and how they're going to benefit from it. I think it's safe to say that in any large group program, you're going to have a couple of people who just don't get there and don't get as much benefit. And maybe, you take them out of that part of the program or whatever the case may be. But we find that the vast majority of the time, we're pretty successful getting people engaged and getting people to get value out of that. And obviously, when people raise their hand and want to coach, they're more bought in, right? Obviously. But we want to make sure that we're not just giving people coaches who raise their hand and say they want one. We want that to be aligned to what the organization really needs and where is it best for you to be investing. In terms of maintaining momentum and motivation, one of the things that we're experimenting with at the Sparks Group is more of a subscription approach to the engagements as opposed to a session basis. And that says that client, you've got X number of hours to use for your coaching this month, and then it's going to roll over the next month. Because what we find is exactly what you're pointing out, Latoya, is that if clients go a long time, let's say they've got 10 or 12 sessions and they decide they're too busy to do coaching for a couple of months in the middle of that, they do lose momentum and they do lose value, and it's not really good for anybody. So we have been experimenting with kind of saying you need to stay engaged. You're committing for 6 months or 9 months or whatever you're doing. We really want you to make this a priority every month to be with your coach. And we're actually getting really good response from that, that people are responding well. They are staying engaged. They are getting more value. And so we're finding that's a way to help sustain the momentum. Yeah. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up today? Okay. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Again, we so appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to spend with us talking about strategically coherent coaching. And you'll be getting a follow-up email that includes the recording, the white paper that is already out there, as well as the checklist that we talked about on the last slide. So thanks so much, everybody, and hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care. Let me see if I can stop the recording here.